Good morning very much. You're joining us this morning. You've been with us since 6 a.m., but we're not done. We are almost to the tail end. And now we want to speak about issues, current affairs that are affecting the general scope of Kenya matters economy and matters governance as well as the family. With us this morning, Bishop Alfred Rotich to take us through the conversation in regard to the role of the church, or rather the religious sect, in as far as government is concerned, politics, and even family. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Now, 2 weeks back, we had a similar conversation with Bishop Anthony Muheria, and that the Catholic Church was at the forefront to launch a 6-month campaign against anti-corruption. Now we have a similar campaign, but now from the religious sect. But now, before we get to talk about what the scripture anti-corruption campaign is all about, maybe we can elaborate on the Subukia Declaration, given that since the Catholic bishops came out and said that it's a high time that politicians stopped, or rather were not given an opportunity to infiltrate, the church with monies for accountability and transparency. Everything has to be done in a transparent manner. Some critics have come out and say that the church is playing politics. I would want to ask the same question. Do you think the church is playing politics, or is politics playing the church?
None of those. But I'm very happy to be here this morning and to be interviewed on a subject that is ours. The mandate is charged on us as a church to preach the good news, to give hope to the society. And it begins really from when we baptize, because when we baptize, we ask people that now they forgo the old style of living, that is, they need to rid themselves of sin and become new creatures before God and before humanity. And therefore, this declaration in Subukia was a moment for us, a moment for this country, that yes, we have had our elected leaders. We elect them, but they are members of our congregation. And therefore, it was a moment for the shepherds of this country, especially from the Catholic Church, to say yes. Perhaps we have been dealing with corruption from a political angle, and we have heard what they are saying, and it is a good thing that they are saying, but now we said, where is the corruption stemming? It is in the heart. And the heart is the headquarters, so to say, of all the decisions that we make. So and therefore, we are calling and saying, let's go back to our conscience. Let's go back to the heart and ask ourselves, you and me, in order to stem corruption, I must say no to corruption, no to sin, no to crime, on individual capacity.
Now, critics are saying that it's a case of a little too late in as far as the church involvement in this particular fight against corruption, given actually they're citing what used to happen in the 70s and the 80s, where the church was actually the voice of reason then. But over the years, up to now, we've seen church draw some gray areas on a few issues. Is it a case of a little too late, or are we changing the dynamics?
Well, the dynamics in the world are changing. But as you know, right from the Vatican Council in 1963, the church, as a prophetic voice, told the world that now we need to read the signs of time. We have been reading those signs of the time. And even now, as I speak to you, we are using the means of communication as a sign of the time. And therefore, we needed to partner with the people of God and of this nation and use the media. And in fact, we are happy that the media is partnering with us in order to broadcast that. Yes, people have a right to ask this question, where is the church? And it is a right question. Where is Bishop Rotich today? Where is he? Were it possible, I should be actually here on a daily basis so that they know, they see, and they hear what the church is doing. We are there. We have not moved an inch. What has changed is the context. I remember the days of my own bishop in Nakuru, of Ndinge. We remember the days of joy. We remember the days of the good shepherds that have shepherded this country right from even Maurice Cardinal Tunga. We are now the sons of these great men and people of God. And we are saying, yes, we cannot go back to those times, but the principles of history we hold now. And therefore, it is upon us to announce the good news in our times, reading the signs of the time, and using the means, modern technology, to broadcast even more. So whilst the people are saying is because, and I don't want to blame the media because they have to do a lot of balancing in their work. They don't go to the politicians, but somehow, somewhere, it seems that the political agenda has driven us to those areas, and therefore the voice of the church, seemingly people ask, where is the voice of the church? And now, since we are partnering with the media, we want to offer a counsel and appeal to the media that yes, do us good, let us do justice, so that the voice of the church that is being heard in the congregation, let it be channeled by you who have the means. And we are happy, even so far, that this voice is being heard. Mm-hmm.
The changing dynamics, in as far as the church is speaking. Yeah. Now, this campaign is targeting non-believers, people who, believe in a higher being, believe in God. Now, what happens, in a society where we have atheists, non-believers, people who are not so, so religious? What happens to this section of people for this campaign? Because corruption is a scourge that cuts across board.
Yes, we must use a congregation, a critical mass, and the congregation is where we are on a daily basis. But we know we are sending a message to all Kenyans, irrespective of their beliefs. And as you say, corruption corrupts and corrupts everybody. So we are talking to the country using the prophetic voice to say, yes, we have heard what people are saying, what the leaders of this country are saying. We want to own and say, let's begin from the heart. And therefore, because we are human beings, on a daily basis we are running business. We are there in politics. We need to step out and say no to corruption, to break the chains, because we know that corruption enchains people. And therefore, they, on a daily basis, think about stealing, think about robbing, think about cheating. And you see it around all across the board. And therefore, it is targeted not, firstly to the Catholics, firstly to the Christians, but secondly, we want to target the whole nation. And we are speaking to the politicians, we are speaking to the preacher, we are speaking to the person who is in the congregation, we are speaking to the family, we are speaking to the institutions of learning, and beginning from our small unit, the family, because there's where corruption. Even parents these days corrupt their children by saying, Mommy, do this for me and I'll give you a chocolate. That is bribing.
Well, we can argue. Some parents can argue that the end justifies the meal. But anyway, that's it. So this is a church coming out and appealing to a change from within to without. Yes. That is going to eventually flow. What timelines are we looking at in terms of feeling the effect of this particular campaign? What timelines are we working with?
I think it is on a daily basis, 24 hours, 7, we must fight corruption. The church has mentioned as a campaign, as an initiative from the conference, we are using the initial 6 months. And why? Is because we are running a program within a liturgical calendar, and we soon will be entering into the Christmas season. But before that, we have what we call the Advent. And even the liturgical vestment will change. And we are saying, if we are going to receive Christ as a born, as a Savior, He is actually coming to announce that we must fight corruption. That's why we celebrate Christmas. And therefore, the next season is what we call the Lent, our own moment. And therefore, these 6 initial months encompasses the liturgical calendar. And therefore, for the Christian, and especially the Catholics and the people of goodwill, now they recognize there is a 40-day where we need to do self-introspection and fight corruption from within. And the conscience, we are calling on the people conscience to really say, I know what is wrong. I know what is right. Let me do the right, because the right gives me peace. And therefore, the wrong does not give you peace.
Now, a question that we've all been pondering about is that corruption is not instant coffee. It didn't happen in one day. It's something that we have been, growing. Now it is almost a negative. It's almost a norm, a societal norm, that you have to give a bribe for you either to get that particular school. You have to give a bribe if you're caught driving. We're giving monies or accolades where they're not supposed to. We are, or rather the culture of corruption, we're already saying it's a culture. From where you sit and with this campaign in mind, why do you think we're finding it very hard to readjust and follow? Is it because we are lacking in as far as ethical conduct is concerned? Can we say it is our upbringing? Can we say is that we have fallen back in as far as our religion? What is it has made corruption grow and thrive as it has?
Pope Francis in 2015 called this an issue about corruption as a cancer, and even mentioned about diabetics. And he said, it's so sweet as sugar that we love it, but we pay the price. And I want to rally around there to say, yes, it's a disease. Corruption is a disease. But the disease of the mind and affects the heart and affects the whole personality. And the way to read of this is to go through a program that is called a 12-step program that is used by when we are rehabilitating the alcoholics and people in addiction. Because when it is come to the level of addiction, you need an instrument. And that instrument is, first of all, to use the scriptures, the prayers, and to encourage ongoing formation so that you can read out. And we can fight this by breaking that chain. Because when one has learned on a daily basis to give a bribe, to stop it, you need a whole session, a whole moment of solitude, and to enter into deep prayer and to meet the enemy, because the enemy that we have in spirituality, now talking about counseling the nation, is that when we are in solitude and in prayer, and by extension when we go to the church, we need to sit in silence and fight the enemy. The enemy in us is anger.
We're angry.
When we are told, don't do it, we sort of can't want to create a sense of anger. And we said, why are you telling me? Now, the second one is we are lustful for power, for money, for flesh. That enemy has to be won in me, in the society, in your heart. And say, the way to go is humility. Many a times we lift ourselves because we have achieved so much. We are greedy. We need more. Not because we have not achieved the ceiling, but because the sense of having more is addictive. But lest that we are called by God on the time when we have amassed, when our banks are full of what we call monies, and then we are told, as Francis said, when we, on the day when we are called to God, we leave everything
behind.
Meaning, we have a kleptomaniac society.
A kleptomaniac
society, which is a disease.
Yeah.
That we want to extend the long hand, mkono mrefu, Mkono mrefu does not mean a physical long hand,
Yeah, true.
but the heart that is always saying, I want for more. And also because of envy and also jealousy. People steal not because they want to build their houses, because they want to be equal
To the other.
to the other.
One
And
will argue
therefore,
that's the reason
it's a
for
disease.
poverty. It's a disease, and I agree. Now, there we have, this is a call from change from within to without. And it has, you're saying basically, we are addicted. We are addicted to corruption, and we need to go to through the 12 steps to rid ourselves of this addiction.
Yes, yeah.
Now, crossing over, if I may just touch on an issue that is currently trending right now. We have the ICPD, the 25th Summit, just to digress. And the church, even before this happened yesterday, where the president was there and he gave his speech and he set the agenda, said we're going to support the call to stop FGM by 2022, gender-based violence by 2030, and all that. But the church has come out very strongly and said that the agenda, some sections of the agenda of the ICPD 25th Summit are pushing for one, if I can quote word for word, issues of abortion, same-sex unions. I'd want to understand, and I'm sure our viewers would want to understand, why has a religious sect, especially the church, taken this stand?
We are patriotic. We are patriotic, and we want to be faithful to the voice of God. Because we know, when God created the earth, and he created all the resources, and created you and me, and placed us to be in charge, that was a plan of God, and it cannot be changed by science like evolution, that to think that we are evolving. When we think so, then we are trying to say, can God change? No. And therefore, this country, this sovereignty belongs, the power belongs to the people, and the president has a duty, and he did that very well, even when Obama came, and yet when this summit is here. And we are going to complement that voice and say we are not going the way the UNFPA is saying. What I want to affirm is that this country belongs to Kenyans, and we must protect it, to use all the means, social, political, and religiously. And we are happy. The preamble of the Constitution is saying the sovereignty, God is the supreme being, and we recognize, we acknowledge. And by the way, when we sang, you heard the national anthem being played. Why do we do those? E Mungu nguvu yetu, ilete baraka kwetu. Meaning, bless us, give us the wisdom in our leadership, so that we can confront the enemies of this country. And one of the enemies of this country is this entity called the UNFPA, which is the thief that came at night when we were sleeping. And thanks God, the commander-in-chief stood and called us to take arms. And to take arms meaning that we need to be a proud country. Yes, we must fight genital mutilation. And I don't know why he stopped by not saying tubal even ligation.
We are coming.
Yes, I'm going there,
that,
and
yeah.
I'm going there, and I want to introduce it and say we must defend it. And he stood, and we compliment that voice, so that we train the people of this country that we are sovereign, and we cannot allow entities in the UN. And by the way, UN is about relationship, about respect, about human dignity. It's as if UNFPA is trying to be the United Nations. And therefore introducing things, and especially coming to our country and saying, we want to change the plan of God. Where is our constitution? By saying LGBT, by saying contraceptives, by saying we need to go this way and changing, and of course saying abortion? No. And why we are saying that...
Let me just be the devil's advocate here,
Yes, and
Bishop
I want
Rotich.
to mention that...
yeah, let me just get to that point. You've touched a very sensitive issue, the issue of contraception, the issue of abortion. The church has been very vocal and said, we are for life, we are not pro-choice. But the proponents of this access to universal reproductive, health services says it has to be uniform across for all persons, and denying the minority is actually almost akin to denying a basic need. Then here we are, the religious sect, especially the church, saying this is ungodly, this is against African culture, and also goes against the sovereignty of this country, because it's as if it feels as if it's being forced down our throats.
Do I need to add anything?
I've not said anything. I've said what they have said and what you've said. So I want you to dissect exactly what the church is saying here. Because you see, if I can quote Islam, and I stand to be corrected, is that Islam has allowed the use of condoms as a form of contraception. And also it has allowed for abortion in some situations where the child has been defiled, not to cause trauma. As a Catholic, and from the Catholic side, that is a no-go zone area. Maybe expound. Well, Kenyans need to understand exactly why the church has taken such a stand.
I want to ask the question, why spend money on contraceptives? The basic needs that the people of Kenya and the people of Africa and the world is meet the basic needs. Look at the legacy program of the president. He's talking about housing. When you use contraceptives, you limit the population, you reduce the people who are supposed to occupy those houses.
Someone will argue and say the population is growing out of hand, and fiscal planning, with what we have, we are affecting fiscal planning.
Out of hand, we are 47, we should be 55. It's not out of hand. The governments of the day, look at countries that houses even the family at the center, and they are increasing the population because the people in philosophy and ideologies have come to convince these bodies that when you control population, then you have enough time and enough space to visit Kenya and look at the lion and enjoy the resources. Meanwhile, you map out where there is oil, because we don't have the resources there. And if the population increases, then you will have none of those. And this is coming from a conscience that was beaten long time ago. And therefore, when as a country we are developing, every child that comes to this world contributes to the economy of this country. It isn't positive. And therefore, we need to look at it that the enemy of our society is saying, let's attack the child from the womb. Let's attack this person by destroying the motherhood, because the mother is the person who nurtures for 9 months and brings it out. Now, if you change the mother, she will no longer host this guest, this gift of God, and therefore going against the plan of God, and in fact saying we don't need God. So that is why we are up in arms and saying, God ordained that the woman, and of course with the seed of the man, will have life, and that life takes 9 months to come out, because they need to be formed, to be protected, and then brought in order to glorify God and serve God in the nation. And that is why God created Kenya and gave us people. So a country without people, many people say, in order to reduce the number of people, is to attack the mother, attack the children. And
attack basically the family setup.
The family setup. And therefore, we are saying, what is our mandate?
As a church.
As a church.
Now, before you answer that question, this morning, if you're tuning in, we're putting a few issues into perspective, especially where the religious sect led by the Catholic Church has taken a tough stance on the issue of the fight of corruption and launched a campaign that is going to take 6 months, the first 6 months, to just call us from within to without to resist. And if we can borrow my guest's words here, that we need to rehabilitate ourselves and know that this corruption is an addiction that we can work from in out. That is Bishop Alfred Rotich. We had asked you this morning in regard to what is happening right now, this summit that is already ongoing, and we've seen the church come out in arms and say that the ICPD 25th summit is pushing for some agendas that is pushing for do not augur well with the church. Some of the issues is the issue of being pro-choice and advocating for abortion. Talking about same-sex unions. And we had asked to put this question to you this morning on our Facebook page, and this is a question. So religious sects say that the section of the ICPD 25th agenda are promoting abortions and same-sex unions. What's your take? So just to sample some of your comments, and you continue to send in enough comments, we have around 30. If I may just pick a few randomly. We have Luke Moiti, Rotich, who says, they should not even be given a chance. I think this is someone who is really on to that. They should not be given a chance to hold such meetings in Kenya. This is satanism and against African culture as well as Christianity. Then someone says, Emily Kenya. They don't say kindly when you're sending in your SMS or your feedback, whether on social media, whether on Facebook or Twitter or SMS, that is 2154. Tell us where it is that you're watching the broadcast. Now, Emily Kenya says, Bishop, he says, they step big out of Kenya. Our president said that we are only what we are focusing on. That is fighting FGM, fighting BGV. We do not want to be westernized. Then I can sample another one. Hashtag Alfred Mbati Ouya says, hashtag Noma. Zomoto, I don't know what that means. Money you didn't work for. That's something evil. They are really satanic and we will later pay for it. Now, according to this, he also further says, according to testimonies so far, this will not augur well. Dominic Nganga wa Kirigo says, not in Kenya. Then Yobesh Yoshaya says, I'm watching from Kisii, and that is a good topic. Now, Bishop, what we've had here, we have Kenyans saying, first of all, lauding the president in his speech, saying that in the opening of this particular summit, when he laid out the agenda that Kenya is going to be focusing on, we're going to be focusing on eliminating FGM by 2022 and BGV violence by 2030. That he set the agenda and set the pace for this. And we have someone saying that this is satanic and anti-African religion and also anti-Christian. Now, for years, we've been told that Christianity is the opium for the poor. And we've seen how Christianity came on board. We had traditions and culture. Now, if we can marry the two in as far as the issues of pro-choice, pro-life, as well as same-sex unions are concerned, where the church comes into this and stand, we've seen it. How do we marry the two? How do we retain our Africanness, if I can use that word, our African culture, in light of these prevailing pressures, especially from out looking in?
You know, Regina, this is a great opportunity for Kenyans to do theology. This is a great opportunity to learn about our cultures. This is a great opportunity to be patriotic. And patriotic meaning stems from your love of life. African culture. In fact, alone we would have wiped away all these ideas. African culture supports life. And that's why there were do's and don'ts. That God is always present. And life is sacrosanct. Now, when we received Christianity, and especially the mainline churches, and specifically Catholic, we did immediately move to what we call internalizing the message of Christ in our system, the African culture. Like say, for the formation of the priest in our seminary, we take very special attention to the African religion, African culture. And I saw an opportunity to do theology, therefore, in understanding the voice of God in an African culture, and the do's and don'ts that even my mother and father used to tell us and say, this is prohibited. If you wrong someone, the elders must come immediately and cleanse you. That is priesthood, which I am a priest. And I saw an opportunity, a base for my priesthood in the African culture. And therefore, now, since Christ has announced the message, it is telling us, the more we are Christian, we should be more African. Because
the more we are Christian,
yes,
the more we should be African.
Because Christ is lending, is blessing our dignity, is blessing the values that we host. If we respect life, won't you expect 100 marks from Christ?
You've said something very important, and if I can be the devil's advocate in here.
Yes.
Respect of life.
Yes.
Now we have the controversial LGBT community. They say that they have a right to express themselves. They have a right to be here because they're alive. As we've said, we want to respect life. Then how do we draw the balance? How do we retain our Africanness within this Christian community? I mean, Kenya, we say that we're a religious country. How then do we, balance? And I think I listened to some of the proponents of universal access to universal reproductive health services for all communities, including the minorities. They say that we need to ensure that everyone gets these services. Yet we are hearing the church saying this is supporting X, Y, Z. So how do we strike a balance here?
When we studied biology, and I hope you did.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
When we are told these are male organs and these are female organs. And the teacher was very, very cautious not to introduce any language that would defeat our mind, because at that moment, when I was in secondary school, the brain was growing. But he put it with a dignity that this is the male, this is the female. When you talk about unions, here in Kenya we are not used to other unions. We are used to Kenya National Union of Teachers or labor. We are used to trade unions.
Those are the unions.
But unions here, what are we uniting? What are we advocating for? We must vocally and stand strong that this is against the plan of God. Yes, there are many people saying, I feel I am a woman in the male case. That is a deviation that needs to be corrected. And I want to assure you that the church already has a mechanism to journey with persons who feel so in order to rehabilitate them. And yesterday, even around here in Nairobi, I have had and I have received persons who are saying, many years I was encased, I was chained, I was corrupted to think this way because God was not in my life. And the person read some scripture because we accompanied, and now they are out and they are proclaiming this message that we don't want. We want pro-life, pro-God, and pro the plan of God. Because when you hear this, freedom of expression, yes, even a madman must accord the space.
Okay.
And I'm saying, in our streets here, there are people, even in the church. I was there on Sunday, and there was somebody who was mentally disturbed, but they were accorded. And by the way, they don't shout when there is prayer. They shout only when there is no love. What they are crying for
is love.
Is that the community accepts that they have a disease, that they have a deviation. Could you help us? And the Beatitudes are saying, blessed are those who are compassionate. Immediately we are coming and we are telling even people who are housed in the summit, Kenya is compassionate. We allowed you to come to Kenya, the conference, and you are saying bad things about life? Okay, when you finish, please tour our streets and go to the side. Kenya is very nice. But as soon as you leave, even as now you leave, we will take everything and dump it in the place where we dump the refuge. And this is a voice that comes from us saying, let's help these creatures. They are not many, by the way. They are only being facilitated by a people who have the monies, and they want to bring corruption. This is actually corruption.
A form of corruption.
And a form of corruption.
Against the family.
Yeah, against the family. And the way they came, by the way, Regina, we have since found, and our statement last night by the KCPF, Kenya Christian Professional Forum, and we accompanied them, and I am part of that membership, said, let us tell the UN that UNFPA is the thief in the night. They plan and they launch it in Nairobi. Why Nairobi? Because they know Kenya is a hub of hospitality, of peace, and of many things that are happening. And when we are sleeping, they came and they launched it here. Now that they are here, we need to tell them, yes, that phase, you are God's creatures, but you need to be rehabilitated. And that is a message that we are saying to the countries who are sponsoring, Netherlands being the first one, that they work immediately and do not spend time giving money to the NGOs to spoil us, because if monies were coming to help the poor, we have poverty, as you say. We need to support the young people. The people who have come, we protect that life and accord them the space to live quality life.
But now, don't you think that the church has taken a very hard stand, a hardline stand that is going to see, in as much as these minority groups are not, a sufficient number, significant number, they have still their rights. And I remember one that was saying is that these are their fundamental rights. They need to be able to access medical services. Right now, it's very difficult to get that support in our hospitals as it is. Why? Because you have to list all your details as it is. And these are still minorities.
Why are they afraid? Why are they afraid to say, we want to access not only health, but even spiritual services? And which they in confidence, because they know, they know they are going against the grain, natural, and they are shy. And by the way, let me tell you, in compassion, I met them when we were in the court, and they could not look straight on my eye because they know, and they are very shy. And their shyness shows that there is dishonesty. Face the problem that is enchaining you. And I mentioned earlier, if there is pride, and if you have a problem, walk to the clinics meaning even the spiritual clinic, begin from there.
So is the church ready to embrace the minorities, the controversial minorities?
Embracing them in our rehabilitation center. And by the way, they could be hearing the sermon on Sunday, we don't know and they are listening. The rehabilitation proper place is the church, the house of God. But they listen to the voice of God, that yes, they have gone against the will of God. Let them now rise from the ashes of desperation and come, and we give them hope. And that hope is that it can be solved, it can be rehabilitated using the Word of God, using the tools that we have, and therefore spiritual tools. And if they wear the armor, they will fight the spirit of the principality, and the principality is contained in the entity of the UNPFA.
Now, I'm sure that the church does not have a problem with the entire agenda of the ICPD 25th Summit. You've just highlighted those other issues. Maybe you can tell us from, I don't know if the church is participating in this summit, what are the other issues that are not, not controversial in as far as the church is concerned for this summit, because we have 179 countries, that is including Kenya, who are on board in regard to this, especially pushing for the issue of maternal care amid the rising cases of child immortality. So what other aspects are there of this ICPD 25th Summit agenda? Is the church really thinking that this is the right direction, other than just the bad? It cannot be all bad, or is it all bad?
No, the hosting is quite wrong from the onset.
Or Kenya hosting?
Yes.
But we would argue that Kenya is an ideal destination for conferencing. We hosted the GS, we hosted the UNCTAD, and I think it's from this successful hosting of this particular conferences, and that's why Kenya was picked for this. Or do you think Kenya was picked for other issue, for another factor?
Well, making a choice, thieves have like the streets of Nairobi. People who want to do bad, they like the streets of Nairobi. Who doesn't like Kenya? Who doesn't like our Nairobi?
I mean, we are ranked as one of the happiest people,
yes,
so I tend to think people would want to be with us.
But when we are doing things, let us also be wise. Let us also have wisdom. And wisdom meaning, Christ himself said, the thief, if you knew the thief is coming at night, you would have locked your house. But we allow, because we are good, people to corrupt us. So we are sending a message to say, yes, as patriotic Kenyans, we have been infiltrated by people of ideologies, especially people who are talking about evolution and saying, as if to create another scripture, as if to create another world, as if to create another human being by the way they think. And we are creating even small cartoons about it. This is cheeky, to use the word, of a people who are endowed with the faculty of reason to engage Kenyans emotionally and enter into the heart of our development. That means the human person who is supposed to work for this country. And therefore, the whole agenda, you may not have seen, but elsewhere we see it, because we are running side events even now around the Kenyatta International Conference. We are running around the Holy Family Basilica. And we have staged this, and we are having inputs. Yesterday we hosted Intergovernmental, the diplomatic corps. And we saw in those countries that don't even share the agenda of this summit.
Okay. So it's shrouded in a lot of mystery, and you don't think it had us hosting, or rather Kenya hosting this particular summit, was not in good faith? That's
Did you know the organizers locked us out?
So the church has not been given an opportunity to
participate? No opportunity. And they locked us purposely because we realized they have been here in Kenya hosting the NCPD membership with a lot of teas in Naivasha, in the hotels, in the resorts, because they have the money. And we know the entry of corruption is in the pocket. And therefore, the Kenyan I'm addressing is that be wise and be careful, be alert and be sober, because the enemy, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for someone. And therefore, they have come here with an agenda, and we were mesmerized. I don't know who gave who what, when, that we didn't know. And thanks be to the President and his team for mentioning those that he stated yesterday.
The President's agenda during this summit. Yeah.
And this is what I can see, the legacy. His legacy, he stood strong to Obama and he said, that is a non-issue.
That's a non-issue as far as Kenya is concerned.
By extension, he's saying it even now. But what he did, being hospitable, he said, welcome. We in Kenya, we are struggling with A, B, C, D. We are good people. our agenda is A, B, C, D.
Now, talking about that agenda, the president's agenda
Yeah.
in during this ICPD 25th summit, talking about stemming FGM and BGV by 2030. What active role is the church ready to play, or does it continue to play in as far as these two vices are concerned that have plagued Kenya for years?
The church is in the front line. We have justice and peace commissions in this country, well established in the dioceses, especially the Catholic Church, and also in the Protestant churches, and also the interreligious. We share those platforms, and we share the data and researches, and we are all saying no to FGM. And I want to mention one of the heroines in this country fighting FGM in the name of the church within Kenya and Eastern Africa is one Dr. Ephigenia Wangeri, sister of the Loreto. I opened the institute called Abundant Life in Kajiado, where we now training the TOTs, and they are making inroads into the society very silently, calmly, but firmly. And if they give you the statistics have been held even globally, because they say, if we went this way and using the tools that we have, look at the religious nun, look at the Loretos, look at the congregations, because it is dealing with women, we assign that duty to the women, because FGM is concentrated there. So, but we as Shepherd, we are saying, let's move in this direction and fight it all the time.
So there are already programs in place?
Yes, there are programs.
Now, over the last few months, we've seen heightened cases, number of gender-based violence, especially within the family setup. Parents are killing their children, parents are killing each other, people in relationships, especially the young people, are taking their partners' lives. Why do you think this is happening in this day and age? Where are we failing, and what can the church do? Because we've said the church respects sanctity of life.
Yes.
But now this is being taken away, especially within the family setup, within the relationship. Where are we failing? Is it non-communication? Is it we are not valuing the family setup more as we should, or are our morals tattered?
Yeah. If you take the statistics, if you do a complete research, and which we do in the family life, we realize within a certain bracket of people who are fighting and encouraging violence in the society are within the ages of, say, 20, 35, majorly. Yeah? And when did we begin this malaise? Is because when we introduce drugs, by the way, contraceptives are hard drugs on people. It changes your mentality, and it robs you of your stability. It robs you of your stability, and slowly on, bit by bit, it changes the way even you think. Emotionally you are charged. And we realize the men and the women who are entering into relationship are not entering into relationship because they want to procreate and live quality life. No, they are taking refuge. They need one another because alongside there was an absent mother. There is an absent mother. We are all looking for pieces of degree somewhere, and yet the formation of the children. So they are looking from one another refuge, and therefore they enter into the marriage using a shortcut. They meet in a matatu, in a convention, in a school, what you call festival, and because of this tool, they begin to say, we love one another. But they have not been formed. We have put a strategic plan as a Catholic Church, and we are housing within the university, and we hope to extend it, and it is in the diocese, a strategic plan to introduce even 6 months formation And that is why initially, even in this initiative, we are saying 6 months. But in the family life, we must train persons who are going to accompany the young people. Firstly, that there is a program between 0-5 years. There is a program. They must go for those formation programs. From 0 to 5, 5 to 10, to 15, to 25, you need. When you are celebrating 25 years in marriage, you are already 50, and the children have come. So there are a deliberate program which we are placing as a strategic plan to help solve the issue. We had before, but we quickened our paces from our researchers, and we discovered that many people who are in this country have not had formation from the family. You start forming a husband in the house. When the father and the mother is absent, and what in that absence they see violence, then they perpetuate that violence. So we are calling upon parents, especially parents, and the families to indicate and appeal to the leadership of this country that we need to have the family at the center of our planning. And I realize there are countries who have the families at the center. And they are talking clearly. Talk about Brazil, Hungary, Poland, and many other countries that are supporting this program. And we want to benchmark. And I'm happy that the politicians were there when we are doing this presentation, and they are there now, that they indicate to our parliaments that we need to defend the family and therefore equip the family right from the beginning in the programs of the formation, and accompany families who are in marriage up to even when they have great-grandchildren. Don't leave them. Don't only give the old some stipend when they are old.
We start from formation all the way, check a chair to grown up.
And therefore the church have an institute of John Paul II here in Nairobi. And we have already rolled the program to the priests, to the religious nuns, men and women. We have already trained the husbands and the wives together. You don't separate. And we have seen, I wish we had taken time, I would have brought in some of the success stories. But just to mention that, yes, we have launched, and we have a strategic plan, and we need the country, Kenya, to listen to the voice of God in the churches and in the religious community, that there is a solution. And we don't want only to say there is an agenda that is being proposed by us. Let the media also come to us and let us offer an agenda. Let us have our own summit as Kenyans.
Against what is happening right now.
Yes.
But now, as you come to a close to this show, it's very clear that the church, especially the Catholic Church, has taken some stand, a stand when it comes to issues of pro-life. They're pro-life. Sanctity of life has to be maintained. And if I can just take a few take-homes, is that when we're talking about corruption, is that it is a disease.
Yeah.
And we need to get, we need to get out of it, and that we need to work from within, without. Then when it comes to the families, that we need to put it at the forefront. Going forward, the church has already set out campaigns, different initiatives, left, right, and center, both supporting the issue of the family, tackling corruption. And you've given yourselves timelines of 6 months to see probable outcomes. In these 6 months, who are you going to be working with, other than just the clergy, other than just me, who is a firm believer, to ensure that in as much as I am trying, because I might try, I might tell myself that I'm not going to pay that bribe when I'm caught overlapping, but hey, the person is always willing, the person on the other side is willing to take my money. You see, it has to be, I think it's symbiotic.
Yes, yeah.
Which other stakeholders are on board in as far as this initiative is concerned?
The whole nation, and we are starting from the executive. We are starting from the executive because they are charged with the leadership. And we hope we'll interact, and we have interacted already with the leadership at a certain, to a certain degree. We are bringing the parliamentarians. We are bringing also the governors in their council. And we need to establish this, because at the national level, as a conference, we have announced this program. But we are now bringing it down to the counties. And we want to ask that there be desks of this initiative led by the metropolitans, led by the dioceses and the deaneries and the parishes, and work together with the interreligious and ecumenical basis so that we can all work together. And of course, we are saying, let the parents be there, and the schools, the teachers. And we are talking to our principals, we are talking to the head teachers, we are talking to the youth groups, even in primary school, secondary school, and then the university. And we have those groups coming on board in our strategy. And in the 6 months, the initial 6 months, we'll now want to evaluate, as you say, what have been the success stories, where do we need to change, tack, and where in the future we need to increase the volume. And we are saying, by the way, this is a mandate of the church. This is a mandate of the religious body to accompany this nation. And we are not going to select, we are going to enter into all areas of life. The sea, the land, and the air.
Okay, very well said. Now, this morning we were putting into perspective a few issues that the Catholic, or rather the church, the religious sect, has taken up issue with. And first of all is that the Catholic Church has been at the forefront in as far as fighting corruption is concerned. And they've launched a 6-month campaign targeting various sections, especially starting within the church, trickling down all the way with the support from the executive to just fight this scourge that we call corruption. And this morning, Father, we've been talking about the issue of the ICPD 25th Summit, and we were asking you what you think about the religious sect stand in as far as this summit is concerned. And you have kept on sending in a few of your responses, and if I can just take some. Bishop, here there's someone who says, good interview, great guest. That is in reference to you, Bishop. Then Lewis Kimathi Moria says, also to be featured is a discussion about family planning pills to be made available to all students. Then Eman James says, in regard to the topic, I think we should hear from the other side of the story to see egeme upande moja sababu ya dini. Then someone says, sends accolades, the same Eman James sends accolades to Ramaguko and Jane for the news watching from Mombasa. Indeed, now those two issues, now as we come to a close, this is a viewer who has said, that's a great topic, but he says that we also need to hear from the other side in terms of balanced, kind of reporting. We want to hear from the other side, not just stand on one side. But now the issue of family planning. Before we started, we talked about contraceptives, and you said that this goes against everything Christian and also African, because children are very important to the community. But we are changing. The dynamics are changing. There's the issue of fiscal planning. Being in charge of your own body. That is what people are saying, that I have to be able to make the decisions about me as a woman. I don't need someone else to tell me the decisions I need to make about me. From where you sit, I know you've said so much, but from where you stand, you've interacted with these people. What do you think?
Let's tell and be candid and even bold to tell our mothers that our mothers are,
as we come to a close, that's the reaction that's from the
But I just want to say our mothers are the custodians. They are at the service of the children, not at the service of their own bodies.
Okay.
You are at the service. You have been given a gift to protect life. So why destroy it? Why do you need the contraceptive? Why don't you use the natural family planning? We have it. And even those who are struggling to get children, boys and girls, if you have girls, boys, we know how to journey with you, and you can achieve even a delivery, a birth. Those who are struggling, we have used, and I have testimonies.
Yes.
They don't have sons. Young people, those who are in marriage and you're struggling, we have a natural family planning. And in all the dioceses, and quickly, if they wish, they can come to Holy Family and I explain to them. We have the experts.
Very well said. That has been our guest this morning, put into perspective matters of politics, governance, and the family, and especially focusing on corruption and also what is happening. This is a 3-day summit that is being held in Nairobi, the ICPD 25th summit here, that has been Bishop Alfred Rotich, the vice chair of the KCCBlic.
Yeah, KCCB.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you call the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops Family Life.
It always comes out as KCB the bank.
No, you are in the right direction, yes.
Yeah. He's been taking us through that journey, and he's challenged you and I that there are solutions out there and we need to work from within to without in as far as corruption and protecting the integrity of the family. This has been Good Morning Kenya. We're glad that you've kept us on board from 6 a.m. to now. We want to tell you that we are always to give you information. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day ahead.